And good Sunday morning to you. I'm Mike Smith. I'm your host for Focus on the Church. And sitting with me today is Pastor Steve Graves. Preacher Steve, that's your nickname?
Yes, sir.
He is the pastor at Bethlehem Christian Church. It's located at 2875 Shoalsville Road here in Winchester. And Preacher Steve, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Let me tell you right off the bat is that I spent about 10 years in live radio. And every single time we had a program like this, I would always tell myself, like Mark Martin of NASCAR, he didn't care how the race went. If he won, he lost, he came in last place. Every single time after the race, he would go, "Woo, wasn't that fun?" No matter what the situation. So I'm like, if I wreck this race, I won't tell you up front. Woo, wasn't that fun?
That's hilarious. Okay, let's talk about Steve Graves himself. Before we talk about the church, tell me, when did you give your life to the Lord? Yeah. Tell me about the call to ministry and then your family, and go from there.
That's awesome. I grew up in a small town in eastern Kentucky, and my family was involved in agriculture and farming and all this kind of thing. My dad actually was in finance for farming with the federal government, so he was like a bank for the federal government. So my mom was a teacher. My brother died tragically in a car accident when he was 6 years old and I was 3. So those kind of experiences set your life on searching for God and making sure that you have faith in your life no matter what the circumstances. So that kind of an environment created in me that we was just expected. You know, I tell everybody I had a drug problem when I was young. I was drugged to church on Sundays. I was drugged to church on Wednesdays. I was drugged to church a lot. And so in that environment, when I was 10 years old, I accepted Christ. I was at the back row of the church. I remember very clearly the church looked like it was 2 miles long.
Right.
The mayor always sat beside of me, and he would always tell the preacher when it was time to stop preaching because he would stand up and start jingling his keys.
Really?
Well, I figured I had better get down that aisle before the key alarm went off. And so there was no doubt about it. I went down there and accepted Christ, and, my life has never been the same since. When you come to Christ at an early age, you don't necessarily have a laundry list of horrible sins that you've committed, but there's no doubt about it, you'll get there in just a matter of time. Yeah. So that's how I started with my relationship with the Lord, and I've never looked back.
That's awesome. At 10 years old, that's awesome. Old. So you gave your life to the Lord at 10. Let's go to the call to ministry. When did you get the call to ministry?
Well, I think that's been a progressive thing. I do remember one very specific situation when I was at Ridgecrest Baptist Camp Conference for a week. And although I'd already kind of felt the call my whole life, really, ever since I was 10 years old, for something, doing something, for God full time. I do remember specifically Russell, I think his name was Russell Moore, I'm not sure, but he was at Baylor University and gave the call. Again, I found myself just walking down there going, hey, I'm a Christian, but now let's amp this thing up. I want to do this all the time. Came back and told my home church here in Winchester at that time where we lived, and everybody came up to me and said, "Oh, we're so grateful you're going to be a preacher someday." I got a little scared because I'm like, well, there's other things to do.
Right.
They were like, oh, they're so excited. I'm going to be the next preacher of Central Baptist Church or whatever. And I was like, let's take this kind of slow.
All right.
I'm 16. So that happened. But I tell you what, my whole life, the nickname Preacher Steve has been with me my whole life.
So you got the call at 16?
Pretty much. I mean, I didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
And it took several years to kind of figure out how to work that out, because people need to understand that to work, so to speak, or whatever, full-time for God, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to Zimbabwe for 10 years or be a preacher. There's so much ministry work that can be done.
That's the truth. So how did you get the nickname Preacher Steve?
I got the nickname Preacher Steve by working in the small business environment in Lexington, Kentucky. In Lexington, I basically had a small business. I was working in the healthcare media organization, and I guess I just always ended up having a little sermon at every time I did anything. I guess that's how that happened. I mean, it was hopefully a term of endearment for most people.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, and they're always going, "Oh, Steve, you're just preacher Steve. You're just always preaching at us."
Right.
I'm like, well, I'm sorry. People need to straighten up.
For real. This is Focus on the Church on WWKY. Sitting across from me is Pastor Steve Graves of Bethlehem Christian Church, located at 2875 Shoalsville Road here in Winchester. Preacher Steve, tell them how to get to Shoalsville Road, 2875.
Sure. The easiest way to do that is most people know where Pilot View Market is, Pilot View Store, or in the old days, the Pilot View School. So basically, I always say if you're going from Winchester out there, go to Pilot View and hang a left. And you just follow that road on around there, the Shoalsville Road, and you'll see a little brick structure up on a hill, and that's Bethlehem Christian Church. It's been organized since the 1790s.
Really?
We have on our church rolls members of the Daniel Boone family.
Really?
It's one of the oldest continually meeting congregations in the state.
Now, how long have you been the pastor?
I've been there 5 years.
Wow. Wow. The telephone number is 859-771-6991. You can find them on Facebook at Bethlehem, Winchester, Kentucky. They got Sunday school at 10 o'clock, and the blended worship is from Sundays 11 a.m. till noon, or noonish, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I always advertise noon.
They have different ministries, special needs, kids, parent support, monthly church-wide breakfast, monthly foundation class, Friday night fun night.
Yeah.
A lot of different things going on.
There are. Of course, there's more than that, but those are our flagship things that just continually go on. And I tell you, this community has been so supportive, especially for our family fun nights. It's something that we started 5 years ago to provide a good family environment for people to have something to go to on Friday nights. Because I remember the days, of course, we all go to the drive-in theater. Mm-hmm. Of course, you had to spend a little money there, but our thing is completely free. So we tried to make it like a drive-in theater type thing, so it's outside, weather permitting. If weather doesn't cooperate, we go inside. Show a big family movie on the screen that we pay the rights for, by the way.
That's
if
good
anybody's
to know.
listening for the Motion Picture Association.
Right.
And then we provide everything for free. So we
Wow.
I'll go out of the way. I get all those movie snacks.
Mm-hmm.
We do all those out there.
And it's every Friday night?
No, we just kind of watch the community calendar.
I got you.
We'll schedule it about once a month.
Okay.
And, you can find that information out on there. So during the summer months, that's what we do. And then winter months, we do some other stuff, too.
Well, that's pretty cool.
But the community was very supportive. The very first one we had, there was 4 of us.
Mm-hmm. That's all right.
We got a lot of snacks and hot dogs, and we have hot dogs and everything, the whole 9 yards. I mean, you're not going to leave hungry, that's for sure. And it's grown. I guess we had maybe about 85 last time.
Wow.
In a couple years.
That's
so
great.
It's word of mouth, stuff like this.
Right.
Word of mouth gets out, and we have some other things that have started that are extremely fun. We have a dance-off contest, which the kids love because now, these TikTok dances, Lord help us, are very popular.
Yeah.
So they come with the G version of those.
Good.
We have a limbo contest that is always very heated with trophies, and it's very strenuous. And just lots of games and things going on. We just have a big time. And
Sounds
7 to 10.
Yeah.
So yeah,
7 to 10. We'll have to keep
we
that
got
in mind. Let's talk about family.
Yeah.
We went right into the church, but let's talk about your family. Married,
Yes.
how long,
Yes.
children, and all that.
Okay, married almost 25 years. We're coming up on that. We have 5 kids. We're a blended family. They're all boys. We have two of those boys are special needs. Hence the special needs ministry that we have. My wife and I started a special needs ministry several years ago, and the ministry really is for parents of special needs kids. There's a lot of things for the kids themselves, but there's not a lot to help these parents that are just struggling every day with children that have a lot of needs.
Right.
So we started an organization called P3, and it's on like all their social media sites and everything. There's about 400 members now.
Wow.
And it's a nonprofit. We've done that for years. And Bethlehem's kind of our home base for that now. So we'll have things out there. And our church is really that's how we actually got to Bethlehem, is just searching out places where they would be comfortable with our youngest son, DJ. He gets really excited. It's kind of like presents like autism kind of thing.
Right.
And so when he gets really excited over a song or me preaching or something, he'll yell out, and it'll scare you to death. Yeah. But it's his way of saying amen,
Sure.
I guess. And when GJ first started doing that at the church and we were attending Bethlehem, everybody, they didn't care. They were like yelling with him.
That's good.
And so that led to a great opportunity there at Bethlehem. They're so accepting.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
these people we have a very colorful congregation.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of wonderful personalities, and they're just so silly, and they just love God so much. And I always say, you know, our tagline, I guess I should have put that under somewhere, is we're just a flawed bunch of people trying to worship a perfect God.
That's good.
And so anybody's welcome, you know, at any time. Our doors are open because we're so flawed. So you'll fit right in if you come out to Bethlehem Christian Church. You know, we don't have a dress code, or there's no pretense. And being a country church, I tell you, it's great because sometimes, and just like when I read through the history of the church, people would come in and they kind of dust the mud off their pants, maybe put their boots at the door because they just came in from the tobacco field or whatever. And they come on in the church and they worship and they go back to work, you know, and this kind of thing. So that's the environment we have out there, is that we're very open. We have a great mixtures of all kinds. Some people drive. Some people have found Bethlehem as their home, right? When you're thirsty and you find a well, you keep going back to drink.
Absolutely.
So we've got people from surrounding counties that come there. We got people that just walk to church out there. So we got a little mix of everybody.
So you've given those that listen that don't go to church,
that's right.
You've dismissed every excuse not to come to church. And that's awesome.
There is no excuse.
That's
now
awesome.
you know.
Bethlehem Christian Church at 2875 Shoalsville Road. They have service Sundays at 10 a.m. for Sunday school. The blended worship service starts at 11. And you can find them, of course, on Facebook, Bethlehem Winchester KY. You can call the church at 859-771-6991. And so you're full-time, obviously.
Well, it's a full-time job. It's a full-time job.
I should have prefaced it by saying,
yeah, they pay me, which is awesome, and it really needs. Those people don't understand. I guess a lot of times, even if the church is small, how much work has to be done.
And that's
but I tell you, I mean, I get paid for what I do there, but there's no way anybody could do this on their own entirely. We're certainly a congregation that volunteers and steps in every second of the time.
Absolutely, and we cannot do as pastors what we do without the volunteers that we have.
That's so true.
So, Pastor, I had told you in the text, excuse me, I was going to ask this question. But again, before I ask him the question, it's Bethlehem Christian Church, Pastor Steve Graves, Preacher Steve, 2875 Shoalsville Road here in Winchester, 859-771-6991. And Pastor Steve, if you had one thing to say to one person and you only had that one chance and you looked them eye to eye, what's the one thing that you would say to that person? That's
great. That's a great question, and thought about that a little bit. And I think that, when you're walking around in the community or in your life and you see people and, you're at the store or you're in line, all those awkward moments when you may or may not talk to people. Of course, now everybody likes to look at their phone.
Right.
But if you have that opportunity, the first thing I would say, of course, hey, I'm Steve Graves. How's your day going? Okay. Well, let me tell you, if you could give me 10 minutes, I want to tell you about a God that loves you more than you can ever imagine, that has done so much for me and my family, and that if you'll just give me 10 minutes, I want to tell you a little bit about how much God loves you, and it could possibly change your life forever.
Wow. What a statement. What a statement to change their life forever. Again, it's Pastor Steve Graves of Bethlehem Christian Church, 2875 Shoalsville Road here in Winchester, 859-771-6991. And I'm Mike Smith, and you have been listening to Focus on the Church on WWKY.